Bleav in Everything Auburn is brought to you by Bet Online. Football is back, and Bet Online is your number one information source for all your sports wagering info with all the up-to-the-minute stats, news, scores, and matchup breakdowns. Get the latest game odds, spreads, and totals from the NFL and college football at your fingertips with Bet Online's real-time updates on statistics, news, and odds. From week 1 all the way to the college football playoff and Super Bowl, BetOnline gives you access to the best football promotions and contests available anywhere online. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code Bleav, that is BLEAV, to get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Campbell in the end zone. Caught. Touchdown Auburn. Touchdown Auburn. A miracle to turn the hair. Nothing but green grass ahead of him.
As hard as they're going to try, they're not keeping this buck off this field tonight. 100 yards. Can you believe it? I still can't believe it.
Now presenting
Bleav in Everything Auburn with your hosts, Taylor Davis and Jason Campbell.
War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to Bleav in Everything Auburn. I'm Taylor Davis. He is Jason Campbell. And all good things here, y'all, because another Auburn win for us to break down. In the words of that viral TikTok sound, a win is a win. It may not have been the prettiest. It may not have been the most effective, but we left Cal with a dub. And I will take that any day. So welcome in, everybody. We're glad that you have joined us. My co-host is back from his West Coast adventures, and I am so eager to hear all about it, as you should. You did a little wine country sightseeing. You made a little trip out of it. So tell us about it all.
Yes. Hello, world. This is your boy, J Cam. I'll say this. It was a great, great trip. We actually got out there on Thursday, woke up at 4:30 in the morning to go catch an 8 a.m. flight. I know, right? And then once we got to California, you get there like 10 a.m. And so immediately you try to check in. They wouldn't let you check in to 3 p.m. So then you got to find something to do until that time. And then by the time you check in and you try to go downtown, it's traffic. But we end up having fun. We end up going to the Nike store in downtown San Francisco, and it's like 6 floors.
Yep.
And of course, I didn't buy me anything, but I bought my her some
Took
dunks.
care of the wife?
And she got some outfits and stuff. But me, I just said I'm good.
So giving, of you, Jay.
So I took the back seat, but other than that. My trip was going out to Napa. So went out to Napa, went to Dakota Shy. Oh man, their wine is so good. Went with an Auburn group, and so we had food, we had wine, and they cooked brick oven pizza right in front of us, and it was so good. Like just
what
fresh out the grill, sitting in front of you. You have a glass of wine, and you got fresh brick oven pizza, and they made like 3 different kinds, and
my gosh,
it was awesome. I got a chance to just enjoy. If I'm gonna fly 5 hours, I'm going
100%.
I'm doing more than just going to the game. So,
exactly.
I told the crew they want to stay around the hotel. I said, hey guys, I see y'all later on. I said, we going somewhere for a little while, and I'll meet back up with y'all later. But it was an awesome trip. It was fun. Our fans showed up and showed out. I got to say that. Like we had over at least 10,000 fans there. Even Coach Pearl was out there in the stands, and everything. He was there. So
what a guy.
Auburn travels well, and we traveled big, and we were pretty much we was more than a third of their stadium, because you saw the Auburn section on one side, but you didn't see all the Auburn people that was sitting around the stands as well. So it was loud, and I think if it hadn't been for our fans, I don't know if we could have got out there with a W, because they got behind us.
That's a very good point. It definitely looked like a fun trip. It was one that I, as a spectator on social media and seeing things from Auburn accounts, I had so much jealousy. I was like that, and those trips are so cool because we don't get them every season. They're not a guarantee. So as a fan, you're looking at, okay, if I'm willing to fly and make a weekend trip, like let's go to Cal. How fun. I love it. So I'm so glad that so many fans traveled. Let's get into it a little bit because I really want to pick your brain about what we saw. Obviously, like I said, a win is a win, and Auburn starting out 2-0 is certainly a privilege, especially when we consider how much newness, how much change, and just the turnaround that this staff and team are having to implement very quickly. And there are several teams in the SEC that would love to be 2-0 right now. So we will take it. We will also talk about all of that. Don't you worry. Another week of chaos. But for the Tigers, it was close to being chaos. Just a 14-10 win over Cal. And again, out of Hugh Freeze's press conference, he straight up said the offense was terrible. He just went straight to the point. He gave so much credit to the defense, some specific guys that certainly played their hearts out. Eugene Asante, undisputed, like show out in that game.
Yeah.
Very incredible. But he called out the offense directly and said it was bad. And it was not at all what he expected out of that game. Not just result, but just how it looked. And obviously, when you go into a game and you have 4 turnovers and that many penalties, you are dang lucky to get out of there with a win. But let's start with the offense because they really had a tough time getting going. And I think regardless what kind of game plan an opponent's defense is going to come in with, you're still going to see the things that you're good at as an offense still show itself on the field. Like you said, this offense looked inept majority of the game. They generated only 6 first downs in the first 3 quarters of the game. It was really that 69-yard drive midway through the 4th quarter that led to the win. And if it weren't for Cal's field goal kicker missing so many, we wouldn't have. So talk to me a little bit about this. Obviously, Hugh said that, the 2 quarterback situation is going to be a working concept as season develops, and it will vary based on opponent. And he said he doesn't think that this week is what he wants it to look like. They didn't call enough RPO. It definitely seemed disjointed. So let's specifically talk offense, just why you think there seemed to be such a lack of rhythm.
Let's just start with turnovers. That's the most important part of the game. Like, that's something that Auburn didn't have in the first week. We talked about it. You didn't have false starts, didn't have the holding calls, you didn't have the turnovers. And all of a sudden, boom, we go out to California and we look like week 1. We look like this was our first week. And, and the turnovers that we had was in, 2 of them was in California's territory. And then the other 2, still they're turnovers and they count because it kills drives. You're trying to go and you're trying to score and finish off a drive. And instead of making a 14-3 game, DeMar, the first fumble, we end up being 10-7 Cal's away. So you're about to go up 2 scores and you're in our red zone. Instead, you down 10-7. So you kind of keep the fight in Cal's hands instead of getting ahead where you can kind of attack their offense a little bit more defensively with some blitzes. We end up having to just, it's almost like we were just sawing wood the entire night, just like, all right, when we're going to get there? When we're going to get there?
Yeah.
And it just kept happening like that until we got late into the 4th quarter. We was able to get that long drive. And that all started with a 3rd and 17 completion to Fairweather and then finish off with a Fairweather touchdown. But to me, it all started in the beginning in the first series. Thorne was trying to make a play. But you're that close to the sideline, you don't have a chance to get the first down. Just go out of bounds. He tried to reach with his left hand for more yards, and unfortunately, his arm got hit, and the ball goes forward. So it seemed like after that, it just kept raveling. It just, it didn't stop. This offense is supposed to be built around the RPO game, and that's what Coach Freeze was saying. We kind of got away from the RPO game in Cal. Like we started trying to do some things that, maybe. From an offensive standpoint, I get it. We have 4 transfer portal guys starting on the offensive line. We got most all our receivers are transfer guys, except for Javaris Johnson and Jay Fair. For the most part, Amari Kelly, but Jair Shorter, Shane Hooks, Nick Mardner. It's just most of them are transfer guys. So I think a lot of it is they're trying to figure out who does what best and how do we implement this. And trust me, we didn't have a challenge against UMass. So we really didn't know what to base it off of,
Sure.
and then also you get against a Cal team that had 52 new players. Like this wasn't the same old Cal team. They had
Yeah.
52 new players from the transfer portal in their signing class. So I just think it's a combination of we kind of got away from what we wanted to do, which is the
Mhm.
RPO game. And
Mhm.
my thing about this, Taylor, is when you want to go fast, you got to make sure you get first downs. Because if
Yep.
you're not getting first downs and you're going
You
fast,
can't establish tempo.
you can't get no tempo. You back on the sideline, so you lose your chemistry.
Exactly.
So my thing is slow it down until
Mhm.
everyone can catch on to what they need to do. And then once everyone can catch on, then you can go fast because it takes a lot of the thinking out of it. Now, the two quarterback system. It's hard for me as a quarterback to get into a rhythm sometimes if I'm alternating as much as
Oh,
we're
yeah.
alternating,
Yeah.
like and you kind of don't know when you're going to be in or you're not going to be out,
Right.
So in the first game, it kind of was like, okay, Thorne pushes the ball to the red zone, and then all of a sudden Robbie comes in the game.
Yeah.
In this game, it was kind of like, oh, both of them was playing all over the field. So it was no like, okay, it was kind of like, is this the plan? That's why Coach Freeze, I think, probably said, I don't think that was the plan, but it just
Yeah.
kind of ended up that way. One, because they probably didn't have confidence in Thorne the way he was playing in those early in the game.
Mhm.
And they feel like, okay, we need to put Robbie in here quicker than we need to because see if he can give us a booster.
Spark.
Yeah, spark. And then he gets in there and they're shutting down his run. And then he try to call
Mhm.
a pass, and the passing just still not there yet. And then
Yep.
Thorne doesn't look comfortable in the pocket. So I think they just got caught in a situation where they was trying to like wing it and see which one of these quarterbacks was going to take the bull by the horn
Yeah.
and take the offense and go with it.
And look, we said going into season, and especially when we were in fall camp and this conversation was still happening, that this was still going to be looked at through the first 3 weeks at
Yeah.
least of season. So this is not a surprise that they're still looking at this in-game scenario up against a variety of defensive fronts, defensive stunts, and
Mhm.
also various atmospheres. You go to a foreign environment all the way on the West Coast, and we're learning as we go. Luckily, they've got one more week to do that before we get into the SEC gauntlet. And so I do kind of rest in that this is a coaching staff that is very much evaluating what's working and what's not. But we are lucky that we are figuring that out with 2 wins under our belt because it very
Yeah.
easily could have gone the other way. But that's part of the risk associated with a total flip of a team and a
Yeah.
program. I love the Rivaldo Fairweather involvement. I anticipate we'll see more of him. He is such a mismatch and a great threat. He also spoke about wanting to get Jay Fair more touches. Like he is still very involved, even though he has, for all intents and purposes, handed over play calling,
All right.
which he has also spoken about. He was asked about it, and he said, I have all the faith in the staff and in our ability to prepare. But he did say last week he spent more time with the defense because out of week 1, like we talked about that run defense and some tackling and things like that. So he said he spent majority of this week with the defense. And he said, this week, I'm going to be back with the offense. He said, Phil has no ego. He doesn't care if I come in and call things, but I know that my attention needs to be paid to the offense this week. And I feel like that's necessary. We have known that about Hugh Freeze, that he is an offensive guy. And I feel like for him, this is the first time in his career that he has handed over play calling. But I think there's a happy medium of his involvement because he is a very effective offensive mind and specifically working with quarterbacks. I do hope to see him a little bit more in the fold with that side of the ball moving forward.
Yeah, well, that's what he's paid to do, is to come
Right.
here and help this offense. Defense had 15 missed assignments the first week. So I think after that, he's like, okay, we're going to play Cal. And I kind of
Right.
know this guy that I'm playing against because I've coached against him numerous times. So he probably say, let me go over here and show the defense what to look for within the Cal's offense. Not
Right.
so much let me make sure I'm honing in on him because I think he trusts his coach Roberts. I think it was more so giving them a look of what to expect with that type of offense. Now, when it comes back to that, I think he feel like, dang, my time away from the offense, as much as it was, showed itself.
Yep.
And I got to get back over here because, okay, I see this the other side can kind of carry their own with our defensive backs, our defensive front. Eugene Asante, like a missile, The
I
way he's shooting and
mean,
tackling, like,
what a game
you
for
know,
him.
this guy's going to have a great season. People seeing
Yeah.
this for a game. This guy is amped to have a great season.
Mhm.
Offensively, though, I'm just shocked, Taylor. It just seems like to me in a Cal game, we got nervous because of the first early possessions. And it's
Mhm.
almost like we was playing not to lose offensively rather than play to win because
So true.
we were so conservative. We didn't even pass the ball at not one time in the third quarter. And,
Mhm.
we had 94 yards passing. We got to find a way to get the ball to these guys in open space. And doesn't
Yeah.
always have to be down the field. It can be slant routes. It can be
Right.
hitches. It can be quick
Idiots.
outs.
Mhm.
Just give them something to get the ball in their hands so they can get yards after catch and use their ability. I was like, we can't keep trying to run the ball so much to a point when you get against A&M, Georgia, and LSU, and all these other teams, they're not going to let you just run the ball at will. Like you're gonna
Mhm.
have to be able to throw the ball to open up the run game. So hopefully this week against Samford we do that.
Yes, this is certainly an opportunity for you to kind of expand the playbook a little bit, get those guys a little more comfortable in those roles. Because you're right, I do think the best offenses showcase the variety of skill set of all the personnel
Mhm.
on the field instead of just being fixated on what you think you want it to look like. Kind of go with what's working for you at that time. And I think we figured out the Rivaldo Fairweather thing. It was just a little later in the game than you would like, but nonetheless, they were able to capitalize on that one touchdown that led to the win, thank goodness. But defensively, those guys played their tails off.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
like they were
Mm.
flying around, they were physical, and it really looked like the week 1 to week 2 improvement. You saw that on the defensive
Nice.
side. I mean, like they went into the film room, took some notes out of week 1 and implemented it quickly.
Oh, most definitely. This defense was put in some bad situations. Like their back
Yeah.
was against the wall immediately on some of those turnovers where it was
Mhm.
already a given 3. But how
Yep.
can we just make it not a given 7?
Yeah.
And that's what they did. Like they held Cal's offense, and they got the first field goal, which I thought was holding on
Yeah.
Jalen Simpson, that they held him. They didn't call it.
Right.
The next time they called it, and then the third time he missed another field goal. But those 3 missed field goals just didn't happen because he just missed them. A lot of it happened because Jalen Simpson was coming off that edge so fast that it
Yeah.
made the kicker speed up his kick. The next thing is Eugene Asante. This guy was on scout team last year. Scout team. He transferred over from North Carolina. They had him on scout team. And he mentally said when he was on scout team, he took it personal to the point that, hey, I'm gonna be preparing for when I do get the opportunity. So while I'm on scout team, I'm learning every little in and out that I can possibly learn. And Marcus Harris, another kid, man, from Montgomery, like not huge, Taylor, but
Yeah.
strong up front, makes a lot of things happen in on a lot of tackles. There's others I can name, but those 2 guys really stepped up and really made some big plays, along with Donovan Kaufman, who ended up leaving the game. But
Mhm.
overall, though, there's a lot of game balls to be passed around, but it started and the energy started with Eugene.
100%. And those are the things that we wanna hold on to in college football. Stories like
Mhm.
that and guys like that where maybe the odds were against you, but man, you've just got that heart and that passion, and you have those moments where that's what's needed on the field, and
Yeah.
he certainly ties it in with his physical ability, but it has to start from somewhere really pure and genuine, and I love to hear that. Well, look, I mean, that was pivotal for us to maintain that win. And I say maintain because, like you said, it kind of was like they were playing not to lose, not playing to
Yeah.
win. But we got out of there with the dub. We will take it. You turn your eyes toward one more game at home
Mhm.
that does kind of afford you the opportunity to iron out some wrinkles, maybe try some things, get guys comfortable before you go into the stretch of conference games that will truly challenge our ability, our mentality, our everything. So Samford comes to town on the heels of a loss 30-7 versus Western Carolina last week. They really struggled against them. Their quarterback, Michael Hires, was sacked 6 times. He lost a fumble, and they were held to just 46 rushing yards. He was 21 of 31 for 315 yards and a touchdown. His top target is Ty King. So based on that, you assume that their passing game is a bit more effective than their running game, but a lot of it because of their offensive line. Their offensive line is struggling at this point. That is a theme across college football right now, though. I think it's a big part of why the SEC is having a down year. You look at all of these games, that is the one thing they have in common. These offensive lines are not standing up to the test. So it definitely seems like a part of Samford's issues. Chris Hatcher is their head coach. He and Hugh Freeze have some history together. So there's storylines there, but these are the games that a coach will tell you it's more about us than our opponent. You obviously can't look past anybody. I mean, Tennessee had a much slower start against Austin Peay this past weekend than anyone expected. So you never look past anybody. But if there are things you want to work out as a coaching staff, as a team, scheme, what have you, this is the week to do it, because moving forward after that, you're not going to have the same cushion that you'll have this week. So as they prepare for Samford, a homecoming game, but you know what's ahead, what do they need to figure out this week?
Ooh, you just said it. Like, they need to practice on different schemes. But for me, though, let's get the receivers some confidence. These guys are talented. They've done a great job of just kind of holding their water, not saying too much, but they need to be involved in the game. They need to, whether that's Peyton got to step up and play better, or let's be honest, the kid wasn't here this spring. He didn't get here to summertime. So his first real, you can go through scrimmages, but you're not going to get hit. It's a different story. Scrimmages kind of set up, for other positions, but for you, it's just kind of, okay, does the ball get to the right place at the right time? And I think for him is more game time, getting more experience with his receivers, and finding that rhythm and that chemistry, because I can tell a lot of it is just they haven't played together a lot. And like some of the throws he's missing on, it's almost like, I'm guessing where you are, and I want to throw it, but I'm not sure yet you're going to be where you're supposed to be, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to let it go yet. So that takes some time. So I would like to see again. That's why I wanted to see against UMass him play more in the third quarter, because I said this is a time to work on your passing game where there's no pressure. That's what needs to happen this week. We know we can run the football. Our offensive line did a really good job of run blocking this weekend. We struggled a little bit on the edge in the passing defense. I was just like, but it still wasn't just terrible. You know what I'm saying? Like, they still did a decent job. Cam Stutz had a couple pancakes that won't be shown nationally, but this guy was pushing guys down the field. I'm like, just stoning guys. So they're still working together and growing and everything. Of course, Too Tall Miller had maybe one or two plays he wish he can have back, the holding call, and he got beat one time by Reese on the edge because he didn't sit back on his feet work. But that's correctable. It's not like he just got overmashed. No, he just didn't have his feet in the right place, and then he just didn't know how to let go at the right time. So I'm not worried about those things. My thing is get the passing game going. Like, you have to. If you're gonna put Robbie in there, let Robbie throw the ball as well. Like, he's got to develop as a passer. Like, no one's going to let him get. Cal just stopped him. Every time he got in try to run the ball, he tried to stop him. Now, I know he wants that one throwback. He almost ended the game trying to throw across his body. And that can scare the coaches as well. So these quarterbacks, one, give the coaches an opportunity to have confidence in you by showing your decision making. Your decision making is what make coaches have confidence in you. Like, knowing when to throw the ball away, knowing when to check it down, knowing when to say, okay, I can't get rid of this ball, I got to take the sack. Like, just protecting the ball and protecting your team. Start with that first. And then they would probably trust you to deliver more passes than what y'all attempted in the first two games. So they got to do a better job. Defensively, don't slow down. You got to come out here against a team like Samford, and you got to let them know early and often it's going to be a long day. Put the game away. Go ahead and give your other guys behind you a chance to get some playing time, and get them and get them some reps that they need so you can get healthy for next week. Robbie can run the ball. So when we put Robbie in the game this week, let's throw the ball. Let's get him on the edge. Let's get him on some boots, some nakeds, something to make him feel comfortable, because you're going to need his passing to develop. Okay, Peyton, let's give him 25 pass attempts. He's had 17 the first two games. Each game he had 17 pass attempts. Let's get him to 25, see if he can build some chemistry with the receivers. And last, man, Jeremiah Cobb looked good. Let's find a way to get him about 7 touches.
Yeah. It is worth mentioning that Jarquez Hunter has returned to the team and was out there. So I will go ahead and put a bow on that story, at least for now. So the running back room is back at full go. But yeah, that's the aspect that you always have confidence in, especially this year with the depth that we have and the improvements on the offensive line. So I think a game like this is really focused on the passing game, and I hope that they take the opportunity to do so. Let's talk about the week that was in the SEC. I feel like what we talked about on last week's episode was proven, and that is, unfortunately, I don't believe the SEC is the dominant conference this year. I think that you are seeing the distribution of talent across the country due to the transfer portal and NIL. You're really starting to see the implications of that this season. And I don't think it's as cut and dry. And I think, as someone who lives, eats, breathes, dies for the SEC, we've gotten a little complacent. We've gotten a little set in the expectation that we're just going to absolutely dominate. And if we are only banking on Georgia because they won the last 2 natties, we're no different than the ACC, who hung their hat on Clemson for the past decade. So this is time for everyone to do a little self-evaluation and realize that, okay, we have to step it up. We cannot let the rest of college football catch up to us and just continue to expect that we're just going to dominate forever because we're the SEC. That's not going to be the case. And that was proven this week, as it was in week 1. Alabama upset by Texas in a game that was certainly going to be a well-matched game. And there were, a lot of expectations for both and a lot of doubts for both. So it really was kind of up in the air how that was going to go. Texas A&M upset by Miami. We all know what happened in week 1. So we're looking at this thing going, oh, the SEC is top heavy. I don't know if we can even say that anymore. Like Georgia, who we also believe is beatable. I mean, like, we're hoping for an upset in Jordan-Hare. LSU already did with it. At this point, you look to Ole Miss. Like, what is going on? But so much of it is, like I said, offensive line. Until that gels, you're just relying on these like stud recruits that you're getting and these high caliber talent, which is fine, but it all has to work together. And this year in particular, so many of these programs seem so disjointed.
Oh, you make a valuable points. Like NIL and transfer portal has now caught up with the teams that used to build their teams from scratch by top recruiting classes. Clemson was always top 3 in recruiting. Alabama was top 3 in recruiting. And when they was doing that, what they was doing, going to national championships, because your competition that you competed against, you out recruited. So your players are naturally better, So I think a lot of that is that hurt, that it kind of made them top heavy, like what we were saying. But now it's not the case. It's kind of like old school. Remember, Cam Newton was a transfer from JUCO into here. Nick Marshall was a transfer from Georgia to Auburn. So those were valuable players to this program that changed the dynamics. So you got to think now that's everywhere. It's not just in some of these bigger schools. Colorado, 80-some new players, changed the whole dynamic of college football in their season already. You just look at all these teams. Like, what's the 2 teams that didn't get a lot of transfer guys? Clemson and Alabama. But what's the teams that did? The ones that did, that decide to get involved and get in and go get transfer guys and not be stubborn about it.
Yeah.
They're making leaps and bounds. Texas, making leaps and bounds. Like, so you have to look at it all across. Notre Dame just when they got the quarterback Hartman. Look what he's doing to the Notre Dame program. Look how their offense is looking. Totally different. So you got to get involved now. A lot of coaches just want to say, nope, that's not me. I'm used to doing it this way. All right. It's either you started doing it a new way or you're going to get out the game. Like, because it's going to catch up and it's going to pass you. So you got to get involved. And that's why I say, like, hey, you don't know what a team is going to look like from year to year anymore. Like, you just don't, because Auburn can look this way next year. We can go out and get 40 more new players this next season and be in a national championship or something. You just never know because your roster just would not look the same. The days of seeing a player start at a quarterback position for 4 years is probably done. Like you may see Matt's 2 years and then the guy's gone. He's out of transfer and he's gone to the league. It's just that's the way it is just now. There's no time for continuity. Everything's always changing. How fast can you bring your team together? How fast can you get these guys to play for each other? It's the teams that are going to win and the ones that you can motivate to look at the team rather than themselves.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's such a catch-22 because
Yeah.
there are so many aspects of this that we are reluctant to jump into, and I kind of was talking about it last week. I understood a lot of Dabo's stance on the transfer portal when it first came in, but at some point you are hindering yourself, your program, and your players by not
Mhm.
adapting. And you can still have your standards and your ways in which you're going about it. You don't have to just completely abandon these expectations that you have for the kind of person you bring into your program. But not participating at all, you're going to get left behind. And so many of these other schools, teams, programs are doing everything they can with the goal of contesting in the playoff and for a national championship. And you got to just play the game. So it's very hard to find that balance, but I think
Mhm.
the good coaches are doing it. And so you got to kind of look to that for the proof. I would say I was more surprised by the Alabama loss than the Texas A&M loss. I've been saying I wasn't buying the Texas A&M resurgence, and I just don't. I feel like something internally is just off because they've got
Mhm.
4 and 5 stars across
Oh
the
yeah.
entire field, the entire roster. You probably have the most funding in the SEC. So I do not understand what the disconnect is and why it's the same song and dance every year. But if they don't figure it out soon, I don't know how much longer he's going to have in College Station. And I thought after week 1 that everyone was an idiot for talking about Alabama like they weren't the typical Alabama. I thought after week 1 like Milroe's the guy, they still have a ton of studs, and Saban's still one of the greatest of all time. Why are we talking about this team like they're gone? But the way that Texas just capitalized, like they looked like the better prepared team. And
Oh yeah.
even when Bama has lost, like the 2 losses they had last year that were down to
Mhm.
the wire, you didn't look at them and feel like they were ill equipped. It just,
Right.
that's college football. In this one, Texas looked like the better prepared team.
Oh yeah, Texas depth. Put it away. Sarkisian wanted this win badly, and
Bad.
they're coming to the SEC next year. So he didn't want to walk into this thing 0-2 against Bama, losing back
Yeah.
to back years. And some of the play design was some of those same play designs that he had when he was at Alabama. I
Uh
was
huh.
watching the game a little bit, and him the way he attacked the safeties, where he get this safety to eye down the dig route, but then he hits a post on top of it. Those type of things he used to do when he was at Bama. And so you saw a lot of those
Right.
things and everything, but you could tell they was on a mission to come and win this game. Evers
Yeah.
came out throwing the ball confidently. Most quarterbacks go into that stadium and they get mesmerized with all the crowd noise, with all the different things that's taking place. Oh, Bama's history and tradition and all of that. And they get mesmerized instead of saying, hey, no, they put their pants on just like we put our pants on,
Yeah.
and they got to play 60 minutes just like we got to play 60 minutes. And the best man is going to win. That's
Right.
the attitude that they went in there with. And yes, Bama has the biggest offensive line in all of football, college and pro. But you know what I saw? They wasn't moving their feet though.
Nope.
Like you could be big, but you got to be able to
Yeah.
run,
Do
be
something with
athletic,
it.
do something with it. And it showed. Everybody getting caught up into these names. Names don't matter anymore because
Nope.
now kids are they develop somewhere else and they transfer to another school and all of a sudden, boom, So this thing is going to be interesting, Taylor. I can't even tell you who's going to be in the final 12 at the end of this year. It's going, is it 4? I thought it was 12.
Yeah. Next year is 12.
Oh, next year is 12. So,
Yeah.
Bama to even have a shot. They can't even afford to lose another game. And
Nope.
they got some tough ones. They come to Jordan Hare at the end of the year.
They would
Georgia,
have to win the SEC championship, I
right,
think.
to have a chance. Or
Hmm.
Texas will have to, or Texas go undefeated, and that'd be their only loss.
Yep.
But like I said, they come to Auburn at the end of the year. I think we have a shot.
Yeah.
Uh, Georgia plays South Carolina this week. We'll learn a little bit more about Georgia this week. Before that's the only big game they played, before they come to us
Yeah.
in 2 weeks. But
You know what I also realized? All of their first 4 games are at home. So the first time that Carson Beck plays in a road environment will be Auburn.
great tidbit.
that is a hard place to play for any quarterback. Greg McElroy talks about it. Like, opposing quarterbacks always talk about how tough Jordan Hare is to play in. How many years have we been doing this podcast and you have your ringer on?
Yeah, somebody caught me.
I remember my first podcast. Okay, as I was saying, Auburn's got to get all the kinks worked out this week. Honestly, it's ours for the taking right now. The way the season is set up, the way the conference is kind of, not as expected right now. You got to be the best equipped that you can to get to that slew of conference games. So we'll see what they put out. Son of a gun, Jason Campbell, I'm going to cancel you. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up before Jason gets another freaking phone call. That is going to do it for us this week on Bleav in Everything Auburn. I can't work in these conditions. Thank you so much for listening. As always, you can subscribe if you haven't already. Leave us a review, comment on YouTube. We are on Bleav's YouTube channel. You can watch us if you'd like. And I'm going to let Jay go because he's a hot commodity. So thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back next week. War Eagle.
War Eagle, everybody. Tune in. Hey, pass it on to a friend. A lot of folks been tuning into our show. No one gives better episodes than Taylor and I. We're going to give you exactly what we think and honest opinions. And hey,
True that.
Continue to support our show. War Eagle.
Yes, please. War Eagle.